Hi friends, this is Scott back at the project garden number one. Today I stopped by because I haven't been by for a few days, and I want to talk about some dynamics about my different gardens that I'm doing now, and kind of some solutions for when the dog days of summer come and it gets really hot and you want to take vacations, you want to go out of town, there's a drought, limited water supply. How do you continue to be able to vegetable garden in those conditions and not be turning your land into a xeriscape, or just letting it die because there's no water or there's water restrictions? So I'm going to talk about the importance of soil coverings. Now, many of my videos I've talked about, Mother Nature knows what's best. Okay, covering the soil and not leaving bare dirt is what Mother Nature does. And everywhere in the world that we have problems with soil erosion and turning forests into deserts, it's because we're uncovering the soil and we're leaving it uncovered. We're losing topsoil, we're losing moisture, we're losing organic life in the soil. Therefore, we have dead soil. And we have some different challenges in the different gardens based on how old these gardens are. Now, at Project Garden number one, this is the first year that I've gardened at this project. It's been a garden in the past. It had a lot of weeds, it had a lot of ground cover. But right now, to get this garden going, I had to turn the dirt over. I had to bring in manures. I had to bring in compost, topsoil. And then right now I've got bare dirt because I do not have the one thing that I need to have that I will have next year, which is mulch. I do have some dead grass that's been, from the back neighbor's yard. We got a big yard that we can use some of that, where we haven't used any chemicals, any weed killers. I'm going to start using that to keep, start mulching around the more tender plants, the tomatoes, the cucumbers, the squash, things like that, to make sure that they stay moist. Because when I'm gone for days, if the sprinkler system doesn't turn on, there's a power outage, something breaks, by the time I get back over here, the garden could be in serious trouble and I could lose, a lot of the crop. That's the disadvantage of when you garden in places where you're not living and where you have to, go days between visits. So mulch is a way that you can, make sure that you keep your plants moist and keep the moisture in the ground, because it'll give you days, if not weeks, longer if you have a good layer of mulch. The other thing I'm going to show you today is the weeds. Okay, when you have bare dirt, you're going to have tons of weeds. And I'm going to show you some weeding today and some challenges that we have. But again, if I had ground cover, I had bark, I had more grass clippings, tree trimmings, hay, straw, and put those in the walkways. I'm going to conserve moisture. I'm going to help build soil and soil organic life in the soil, because everything when the soil's moist, all the creatures and the fungi and the worms and all the bugs can do their job. But it also suppresses weeds. And when people say they don't like the yard work, they don't like to pull weeds, well, gardening is always going to be work, but I can limit the amount of work that I have to do. And I'm going to highlight that in my home garden, where I do the back-to-Eden garden method, where I bring in wood chips. But if I'm not diligent in replenishing those wood chips, they do break down. They increase, they add moisture, they add organic matter, they add nutrients in the soil, they help the soil life. But if I don't keep adding to that and it gets used up, then what do I end up with? I end up with bare dirt and I end up with weeding. So every year I got to stay on top of my mulch, and I haven't done so in my front yard. And that's going to be this year's project, is to get that yard back, because now I'm having to weed. Still not a ton, but it's I let it go last year and I didn't add any new bark to the front yard landscaping, and I'm paying the price this year. But if you don't like weeding and you want to retain moisture, you want to add fertility, and you want to be able to go on vacations and not worry about all your plants drying up and dying, then covering the soil, covering the earth, mulching with some kind of material is the way to go. Now, I'm not talking about rocks. I'm not talking about that type of mulch. I mean, people do that, and yeah, that'll help with some landscaping issues. But if you're going to try to grow stuff, we're not using rock. We're not using gravel. That turns the soil into a nightmare. And once you've brought it in and dumped it, you own it forever. It doesn't ever go away. If you bring in bark and you mulch everything really thick and you end up not liking it, you don't have to remove it. Wait a couple of years. The soil will take care of itself. So again, number one rule of bark: you never mix bark mulch into your earth. When you're going to plant, you pull the bark away, you dig your hole, add your compost, put your plant in, or your seeds or whichever, and then pull the bark back to mulch the plant, help retain the moisture. One thing when you add bark, always water well before you add the bark, because if you put a whole layer of bark thick, 4 inches or so, on top of dry dirt, the bark's going to suck up all the moisture from your sprinklers or from the rain, and you're never going to get that soil moist. But if you moisten the soil before you put on the bark, and then you wet it in good. That bark will retain that moisture in the soil. So with that being said, let's go check out the project garden. I haven't been over here for a while, haven't done any weeding, and you're going to see some challenges we have. But you're also going to see some a little bit of a nice radish harvest today. And there's also some kale that I could take if I had more time, but I just had some lettuce and kale and stuff at my house from my garden, so I don't need any today, so I'll leave it for the homeowner. So let's go get to work. As I was describing, as you see, we have some bare soil here. And where do we have with the bare soil is we have lots of little weeds everywhere. So the garden needs to be cleaned up. It's not in terrible shape. It doesn't take hours to do this. It takes, maybe 30 minutes to get it back on track. But if I would have moisture retention mulch here, it would be weed suppressing, and I wouldn't have to be doing this weeding today. So for a little garden tour, we're looking at the potatoes right here, and they're coming in nicely. But you see there's weeds everywhere, and there's some of these wild trees that are softwood that I need to get rid of before they become a menace. But here's the strawberry beds. You see there's lots of grass in the strawberries. Here's beets with grass all around it, so we need to clean all that up. But these are beets. They seem to be doing pretty well. But again, we have all kinds of different types of weeds. And again, Mother Nature covers the soil, so weeds have a purpose. I guess the definition of a weed is just a plant that is not in the area that you want it to be. Mother Nature puts weeds down so that it covers the earth. And so if we are going to pull the weeds and leave bare soil, then we better replace it with something to make sure that the soil is covered. Now here's radishes, lots of good radishes. We're going to harvest some of these today. As I go back, I'm showing you the weed path. That's lots of different types of weeds. Lots of things we need to get rid of. This is great chicken food. I'm not going to haul it back to my house to feed the chickens, but if I had chickens at this place, they would love all this. These are daikon radishes, and they're not anywhere near ready. They're the radishes that get up to like a foot long. I've never had any good luck growing those, so I'm trying it this year. There's turnips to the left of those. And then you see the green beans, the bush beans are coming up between the beets and the radishes. You can see those there. Here's a ground level view of the radishes. These are French breakfast radishes, as you'll see in here. I'm going to pull a couple just so you can kind of take a look at how big they're getting and how they look. Pretty nice radishes. But I also have a whole mixture of other types of radishes within here that we're going to pick in kind of a good mixed radish. Mr. Lincoln's with me again today. He's enjoying the garden. And as we head down the radish row again, I'm going to turn the corner, and then we're looking at carrots. And the carrots really came in well. I need to thin these, but that's my worst thing is I don't thin very well. So there's a few bald spots or blank spots in here that I can re-sow more seed. For some reason, that must have been a bad pack of seeds, or it just didn't germinate. Now here's the Swiss chard. It looks a little raggedy, but it's getting big. It's going to have some nice leaves. A little bit of bug damage, nothing too outrageous. We have a couple of these Swiss chard. And there's all kinds of Swiss chard, but I only got the basic green variety. These are kale. Look how nice the kale looks. Russian kale, beautiful. Eggplant, couple plants, and then we have peppers, all different types of hot peppers and green peppers along here. And we'll just keep on marching down to more and more stuff. And we turn the corner again. And then we have our brassicas and our cabbage and our cauliflower and red cabbage and Brussels sprouts. And all of that is doing very well. Here we're looking at the onions. We've got Walla Wallas on the right. We have yellow storage onions in the middle. And we have red salad onions on the left. Now we can eat them as green onions right now. They're starting to bulb up a little bit, but we're just going to leave them in the ground, most of them anyway, and let them mature to full size. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this garden, because I don't have full sun in my yard, don't have the space to be able to grow really nice onions, so we're going to give it a try. There's a zucchini plant, and we have 2 cucumbers, and as you see the little green thing sticking up there a couple inches tall, that's the corn to the left. I guess my rows, these are leeks. They look like little grass, but they are leeks, and they'll turn into big, thick stalks that are great for soups and stir fries. Another zucchini amongst the corn. As I scan back, you can see my rows are a little bit crooked. I got made fun of the other day by my buddy that said I must have been drunk when I sowed these rows. And, I cannot confirm or deny that, but, it is what it is. But they did germinate well. I have 2 seeds per hole, and most of them, they all came up. So I've got some thinning to do in the corn, it looks like. But overall, I'm very pleased with the germination. Now we're zooming back through the corn, and then we're going to start taking more of a panoramic view of the garden. But you can see things are growing well. And as we scan back, you see it's getting lush and beautiful. That's what gardening's all about. Mr. Lincoln is enjoying himself there. As we scan back across the corn, we're going to head up toward the tomatoes, and this area is messy. It's got lots of weeds. It's got some overhanging bushes that I didn't realize were going to be so much shade. So I've got to whack some more plants that the homeowners, I'm sure, are going to be thrilled about. But I need to get rid of some of these bushes, at least thin them out so we can get some sun. We're using these dinky little tomato cages this year, but I wish we were using different ones. But the budget is the budget, and we're just going to use what we have this year. Lots of weeds, lots of those oriental softwood trees that are just springing up everywhere. And then as you see the strawberries back there, they're looking lush, but there's tons of weeds. Here's those bushes that I need to take care of, at least thin them out. Now, like most of my videos, I have to have the obligatory hard work moments. I've got to prove that I'm actually doing something. I don't want there to be any question on who's doing this. Now, I'm showing some weeding here today. That's going to be my project, a little hand weeding and a little weeding with a hoe. I wish I had a stirrup hoe, which is just basically a hoe that's got a hole in the middle and it's all edges all the way around. That way you're not dragging the dirt so much as you're chopping the weeds. But with today, I'm going to do some stuff with the potatoes. It's better that I have something that I can move some dirt around also. Again, nice wide rows. I can just go in and nothing fancy, just rip these weeds down, get them under control. I wish I had some more mulch or some mulch to be able to replace these weeds, because weeds do have a purpose. I have some grass clippings, but that's about all I've got. Now here, as you see, I'm weeding. I'm starting to pull the dirt up over the potatoes. I'm digging the trench down the side to clean it up, but I'm going to start bringing that dirt in to mound them up, because potatoes, as they grow taller, you just keep mounding the dirt, and they'll keep shooting out roots from the stem that you bury, and more tubers will be developing, and you'll have a bigger harvest. So I'm just going down the row and getting rid of all this grass. Most of this is field grass, but there is a mixture of other weeds. Now, as you see, as I'm mounding the soil from the trenches up over onto the potatoes, you see how rich and lush this soil is. I mean, we amended it with, again, the manures, the compost. We double digged it, raked it out, and sowed our plants, and they seem to be doing very well. Again, hilling potatoes is not hard work. It's just, I'm doing 2 things at once. I'm chopping weeds, and then it doesn't hurt anything just to chuck them up on top of the potatoes and just keep on swimming. As the season progresses, this will become a kind of a trench on both sides that will be built up so that the potatoes can grow to their maximum potential. Now here I'm showing you a handful of the types of weeds that I've pulled out of these rows. Lots of different types. Again, my chickens would love these, but I'm not going to take them home. I'm going to throw them in the compost bin. I'll show you a nice bunch of assorted mix of radishes. Beautiful. There's still a lot more to come. I don't want to take them all. I'll leave some from the homeowner. And when they get a little old and you're not catching them, they split. And you got to keep an eye on that. Beautiful, all washed up radishes ready to take home and eat. Now we're scanning back over a weeded garden. It's not the best job in the world, but it'll do for today. I don't worry about picking up all the weeds in the rows. They'll just die. If you chop them down, you get the roots. Most of them will die. Mr. Lincoln is ready to go home, it looks like. He's looking at me like, come on, man, let's get out of here. Everything's looking good. It's been well watered. I didn't have to do any watering today. The sprinkling system is taking care of business. And it'll be a few more days before I'm back over here, but I'm excited every time I come because there's new stuff to explore, new stuff to discover, and new stuff to eat. So it's all looking good. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't bring something home to the chickens. And what I've done is I've given them the tops of the radishes, so they'll have a nice little salad, which will help their yolks get really nice and orange and dark. They love it when I bring home some greens. Really, it's great for their diet. Now, if you like this type of video and want to continue to follow me on my journey living my best rural life in the city, please subscribe, hit like and share, and comment, and tell your friends about me. Thank you for your time.